Namaste. We are going to have our next speaker, Shashwatinath. She will be speaking on Raghunath Vesha. I'm pleased to introduce Shashwatinath, who has been studying Parashara under the guidance of Branka Larsen and Jaimini with her guru, Satsiriji. With an academic background in arts and literature, Shashwati has spent the past 2 decades working in the software industry, bringing a wealth of diverse experiences that enrich your astrological journey. Shashwati ji will be speaking on Raghunath Vesha today. Please join me in welcoming Shashwati.
Jai Jagannath to everyone. I'll take a moment first to express my reverence and my gratitude to Guruji, Pandit Sanjay Rath and Gurvi Sarbani Rath for sharing this divine knowledge of the Parampara with the world for the benefit of people like us. And I also want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the teachers, the Gurus of the Parampara who I've been studying in the last 4 years. My topic today is Shri Jagannath's Raghunath Vesh. When he is adorned as Bhagwan Shri Ram on the day of his Pattabhishekam, his coronation ceremony. This Vesha is the most rare of all the Veshas of Shri Jagannath. It was started about 500 years back, and since then it has only been held 9 times. So these Veshas of Shri Jagannath are very mysterious. We will attempt to understand the Raghunath Vesha in a twofold way. First, we will study Sri Rama as a king and his establishment of Ramarajya from a Jyotish perspective. Then we will go into the study of a few aspects, as much as time will permit, of the 9 muhurtas when this Vesha was held, to understand what were the energies in the sky which would assist for such a rare event to transpire, and also try to understand the impact of the Vesha on history. So first we study the coronation muhurta as it is mentioned in classics. And here I'm quoting the shlokas from Skanda Purana, but Padma Purana, Bhushundi Ramayana, they are all of the same opinion. And Valmiki Ramayana doesn't mention the date or the muhurta. So after the period of 14 years of Vanavas, on the 4th day of Vaishakha, Sri Ram boarded the aerial chariot Pushpaka and started his return journey towards Ayodhya. So Vaishakhasya Chaturthya, which is the 4th day of Vaishakha Masa. So we know that this is Shukla Paksha. On the 5th day of the month of Madhava, they camped in the hermitage of Bharadwaja. Panchamyam Madhavasya. Now, Madhava Masa and Vaishakha Masa are exactly the same. They are just Amanta and Purnanta. And we know that in Shukla Paksha, Amanta and Purnanta Masa are exactly the same. In Krishna Paksha, they go one after the other, but Shukla Paksha, it's the same. So Madhava Masa is Vaishakha Masa. Then he came to Nandigram by Pushpaka on the 6th day. Nandigrame tu Shashtya. And his Patyabhishekam happened on the 7th day. Saptamyam Abhishekto. Now this is very important to understand because Saptami is ruled, or the Devata of Saptami Tithi is Savitur. And Surya has 7 horses, and here we are talking about a Surya Vamshi king. So it makes complete sense. Now, um, here it says that Rama began to rule the kingdom in his 42nd year, and Sita was 33 years old at the time. Now, about the nakshatra, when Sri Rama and his entourage were waiting in Bharadwaja ashram, he sent Hanuman to meet with Bharat in Nandigram to give the news of his coming. And Hanuman informs Bharat that tomorrow, when the moon will be in conjunction with Pushya Yogena, you will be able to see Rama. Now, this is another very important point about the Muhurta, which is Pushya Nakshatra. Because Pushya is the lunar mansion of Brihaspati, and Brihaspati, the Kula Guru, anoints the king. So if we are going to think about it in the terms of like when a Raja is coronated, a Raja Yoga starts. And the Guru has to be very favorable for the start of a Raja Yoga. So even as long as the Guru is favorable to the Raja Yoga will last. Otherwise, it will end. So that's why the Pushya Nakshatra is very important for a coronation event. Now, these shlokas Ayodhya Khanda, when Dasharatha had planned for the coronation of Sri Rama, but instead they had to go to Vanavas. They had to wear these balkalams, the tree bark garments, and they have to go to Vanavas. It is clearly mentioned that the Masa was Chaitra, not Vaishakha, Chaitra. But the nakshatra was the same, Pushya Yogena. So here I want to mention that in Skanda Purana, Vaishakha Masa Mahatmya, um, Vaishakha is eulogized with many examples. And one of them says that if all the masas were different mantras, then Vaishakha is like the Pranava among them. Now, later in the chapter, it speaks interchangeably about Vaishakha and Chaitra. Because both these months, Surya can be exalted. And again, we are talking about the coronation of a Surya Vamshi king here. So that's why this month can be different. I would suppose that Surya would be exalted when Sri Rama was coronated. Although the Muhurtas, when the Vesha was held, doesn't always have Surya exalted, but when actually he was coronated, I'm pretty sure that Surya was exalted. Now, it is mentioned in the Vaishakha Masa Mahatmya chapter that this month, when Surya is in Mesha, it is extremely auspicious for many reasons. You can actually get emancipation if you do certain rituals, do certain mantras. Yama laments that people are going to hurry in this month and not coming to him. Now, the Kala, the Kshana, is also given. Bharat mentions that the coronation will happen in Madhyanya. Now, though the ritual started early dawn, but the actual crowning happened at peak noon. Now, Sahi Yatra is a very ancient festival in Jagannath Puri. And Sahi means village. And it is a street theatre that travels from one Sahi to another and enacts the story of Ramayana. It starts on Rama Navami, which is Shukla Navami in Chaitra Masa, and it goes on for a fortnight. Uh, Now, and it ends on Rama Abhishekam, which is held on Krishna Navami Chaitra. So, this is what is followed in the Sri Jagannath temple. And we know that because the last Raghunath Vesha that was held in 1905, we actually have a date for that. There was an invitation sent, it was on the paper, so we have a date. For the other 8 Raghunath Veshas, we have only the year. It is very little information is available about this Vesha because it is so rare. Now, as Varsana was mentioning in her presentation, that these actors who are enacting the life of Rama, they are not really actors. They are bhaktas who are in the bhava of the life of their deity. Now, this is what a Raghunath Vesha looks like. It is said that the coronation ceremony of Sri Rama, when he was coronated, all the traditions that were followed by the Suryavamshi lineage since the time of Manu were followed. And the crown of the Suryavamshi lineage was fashioned by Swayam Brahma. Now, there are some unique features about this Vesha. One is that we know that Jagannath is the Karta. He is the doer, but he doesn't have hands. But in this Vesha, he is given hands and he is holding the bow and arrow of Sri Rama. And unlike other Veshas, there are 31, 32 Parshva Devatas. And these are all people that attended. It's a coronation ceremony. There were a lot of people. Sri Jagannath is seated in a Virasana position. So you can see the Virasana position here, adorned with many gold and jewel. Now this is very important because the Vesha is sponsored by the Gajapati kings of Orissa, of Puri. And they have to make all these ornaments. That is one of the reasons this Vesha is very rare, because all this gold and jewel has to be offered to Sri Jagannath. Now, Sita is Sri Shakti seated on his lap. It's not very visible in the pictures here, but Sita is on his lap, and Subhadra is Bhushakti. She stays the sister of Jagannath. Now, to understand this posture of having the Shakti on the lap, we can think of it in terms of Jyotish. The lap, the thigh is in the Kalapurusha ninth house. And that is the connection with the Navamsha. Ninth house is the connection with the Navamsha. So this is Shakti seated on the lap, is this Navamsha connection. Now it is mentioned in Shiva Gita that when Shiva gifted Vishnu the Pashupat Astra to kill Ravana, after Vishnu prostrated and did pranam to Shiva, Shiva took him and had him sit on his lap. So here we see again the ninth house connection of Guru and Shishya. So that is how we can understand this posture. Now, Balabhadra Dev is dressed up as Lakshman because they are both the Sheshnag avatars. And Brahma, Shiva, Garuda, they are all attendees. Bharat and Shatrughna, Sri Rama's brothers, and one of them is holding the white umbrella. The other one is, fanning him with the chauris. Then the Chatur Lokpalas are there. Then the rishis, all the rishis from all the four quarters came to attend Sri Rama's coronation. The Vanara chiefs, Hanuman, Sugriv, Taraputra, Anga, Jambavan, all of them were there. Bibhishana who was already crowned as the Raja of Lanka, he was there. Then his mantris and his prajas. Prajas are the people of Ayodhya. They are all present in his coronation ceremony. Now let's understand the word Raghunath. Now the solar dynasty, Surya Vamsha, gets its name from Ikshwaku. Ikshwaku is the son of Vaivasvat Manu. Then later the Vamsha is known as Raghu Vamsha from King Raghu. Now King Raghu is very similar to Sri Rama because both of them have 5 planets exalted in their horoscope. And we know from Parashara, Maharshi Parashara gives us a shloka in one of the Raja Yoga chapters that if a native is born with 4 or 5 planets exalted, even if they're born in a Hina Vamsha, like an underprivileged family, they will become a world leader. And King Raghu, is known for doing a Digvijay. Digvijay is when you go in all directions and you conquer many countries. And so from the Digvijay, he earned a lot of wealth. And of course, we know that Sri Rama's father, Dasharatha, was a Chakravarti Raja. So he had many countries pay tax to him. So it's possible that it is because of the Digvijay that Raghu did that their country expanded so much. But after the Digvijay, King Raghu did a Vishwajit Yagya. Now, this is very interesting because in a Vishwajit Yagya, you donate everything you own. So, that is the level of the Raghuvamshi king. They are very pure. And Sri Rama is the best of the Raghuvamsha. He is the Raghu Shrestha. Now, this shloka from Raghuvamsha Purana says that knowing that he will be extremely successful and reach the zenith in education and wars, Dilipa named his son Raghu. So the root word of the root word Raghu is swift, rapid. it represents a motion that is very swift and rapid. So he knew that his son, because of his horoscope, is going to be an expert in education and very rapidly and become a king and win battles and all very quickly. So that's why he named him Raghu. Now, the Nirukta of the word Raghu. Ra, we know, is Agni. But as mentioned in Ram Rahasya Upanishad, Ra is Vahani Vachan. Now, in Sanskrit, we can refer to Agni as Anala when we want to say that it is more of an uncontrolled fire, or Pavaka when it is a more of a purifying fire. But when we say Vahani, it is like the fire of a Homa, of a Yajna. It carries our prayers to the God. So that is the energy of the word, of the Akshara Ra. And Ghu. Ghu sounds like Ga, Ha, and U. So Ga we know is ignorance, darkness. And Ha is Shiva. Ha is understanding. And U is a vowel used to suppress. So this means suppression of darkness. And the word Ghora means night. If you turn it around, it becomes Raghu. So it is day. So Raghu overall means the repelling of ignorance and with the light of knowledge. Now, what is this light of knowledge? Where is it coming from? This shloka from Raghuvamsha Purana says that the children of Dasharathis of Vinaya, Swabhavikam Vinitatvam. Vinaya, the general meaning of it is humility, modesty, which were expanded manifold as the fire of the Homa expands with various offerings due to proper training in Vinaya. Vinaya Karmana. Now, what is proper training in Vinaya? For that, we have to understand the first chapter, Vinaya Adhikarikam, from Kautilya's Arthashastra. Now, this includes several lessons which talks about how the Kshatriya Yuvarajas were trained. And in that context, we know that Vinaya, the real meaning, the deeper meaning of Vinaya is the mastery of discipline. There are many Shastras that were taught to the Raghuvamsha kings or any Kshatriya Yuvarajas. Anvikshaki, Trayi, Varta, Dandaniti. Trayi means the three Vedas, Itihas, and many other texts. Now, of course, the Rajas had to know this because they had to discern between Dharma and Adharma. They had to study the Vedas. Varta is professional study, and Dandaniti is very important for a king because they have to be able to punish. And the punishment has to justify the crime. It cannot be more or less than the crime. And anvikshaki is a very loaded word. It means that once they have assimilated all these shastras, and along with all these, characteristics that they are born with, that when it assimilates inside them and it becomes like a reflex, when it becomes like a tattva jnana, and they are able to use it for the purpose of discernment and critical reasoning, that is anvikshaki. And for what purpose? Loka samsthiti hetava, for the welfare of the subjects, they were going through such rigorous training. And the last chapter of Vinaya Adhikarikam in Kautilya's Arthashastra is Indriya Jaya. So that is the ultimate goal of this training in Vinaya, the mastery of discipline. It is the control of the senses. So that was a Raghuvamshi king. That is how they were prepared, they were trained. Now we are going to study the chart of Sri Rama from the perspective of something called the Adarsha Lagna. Now, this is a Jyotish concept which we can use to study the chart of kings. In these days would be political leaders. It is said that for a world leader, the truth about them can only be understood if we study the chart from the Adarsha Lagna. And we can also understand the experience of their subjects during this reign, because the experience of the subjects will depend on their ideology. So, studying the chart from this Lagna will give us an understanding of what is the ideology of the king. Now, every Lagna has a corresponding Adarsha Lagna. And for Sri Rama, because he is Karka Lagna, the Adarsha Lagna would be Kumbha. And we will study the chart from Kumbha as the Lagna. Now, so this will tell us what were the ideals with which he was ruling his nation. Now, the ideals of a person are based on their gunas, right? And though Sri Rama has many gunas as listed in Valmiki Ramayana, but the foremost among them are these Shad gunas that are given in Bhushundi Ramayana. So I will base my study on that. Now, Shadguna Vishnu is a very creation concept. Sri Vishnu manifests in his Chaturvyuha form, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, emanating with the Shadgunas. And this is the chart of Bhagwan Jataka. So we will try to understand the ideology of Sri Rama from the basis of these Shadgunas. And we know that Ramarajya was perfect. Sri Rama was the perfect king and Ramarajya was the perfect kingdom. So how do we understand it from the perspective of Jyotish? So Adarsha first house. And now we will study this with respect to Virya Guna and Aishwarya Guna. Now, the gunas, as it is mentioned in the Pancharatra Agamas, especially Lakshmi Tantra, these gunas, the Shadgunas of Vishnu, are in three pairs of two. So here we are dealing with the first pair, Aishwarya Guna and Virya Guna. And these two gunas of Sri Rama, as listed in Bhushundi Ramayana, are exactly the same as the Lakshmi Tantra. So, the first house Kumbha has a Shubha Kartari of exalted Shukra and exalted Mangal, which is the ninth lord and the 10th lord. So this is forming a Dharma Karmadhipati Shubha Yoga. So now we can understand, now we can start to understand what is the ideology of Sri Rama. Now, how to understand this from the perspective of the gunas? Now, Aishwarya Guna, as it is explained in the Pancharatra Agamas, it is like the creation of the world from the Icha of Vishnu. Now, if we were to think of it from the perspective of Purusha and Prakriti, Prakriti is Aishwarya Guna. Now, if we try to relate it to Jyotish, maybe that means all the houses, all the houses in the chart will be Prakriti. But let's try to understand it from the perspective of Artha, because we're talking about a king and his, rulership. So let's take the second house as Aishwarya, because the second house is the wealth. So if we are to look at the second house as, the root of his ideology for Aishwarya Guna, then we see that Shukra is exalted and it is the lord of the fourth house of his country and the ninth house of Dharma. So, what is his Aishwarya? What is his ideology about Aishwarya? It is the people of his country, his praja, his subjects, and Dharma. That is ideology to him. That is the ideology of Aishwarya to him. And also, we can think of it as he is considering his praja to be his kula, to be his family. And also, if we just look at it from ninth Lord Shukra, the Karatatva, this is also showing his establishment of the Ekapatni Dharma. Now let's try to understand Virya Guna. Virya is, as explained in the Pancharatra Agamas, is that Parakrama which is tireless without Shithilatva and unchangeable without Vikriti. So Sri Rama is doing his Kshatriya karma of protecting his subjects with that level of virya. He's not taking any vacation or sick leave. He is constantly at it. He's constantly protecting his people. So when we think of Parakrama, of course, it is the third house. So the third lord is Mangal. So this Shubha Kattari, now we can understand it better. We can understand his ideology better even from, if we study it from with respect to the Aishwarya Guna and Virya Guna. That is his ideology that he is ruling with. Now this shloka says that Sri Rama ruled the earth with Lakshman as a follower. Lakshman Anucharo. Sri Rama did Rajya Karya with his brothers as companions. Bhatribhi Sahita. Now, how does that show in this chart? We see that Mangal, which is the Karaka of siblings, is following his Adarsha Lagna, Anucharo. So he was ruling with his brothers on his side. He was always consulting them. Now, it is said that on the day of his coronation, Lakshman was offered to be the Yuvaraja, next in line. But Lakshman declined. So Bharat was consecrated as Yuvaraja. Now, the next pair of gunas is Jnana and Vairagya. Now, let's study Vairagya guna first. This is the pair, Jnana and Vairagya guna. Vairagya guna, as given in Bhushundi Ramayan, maps to the guna of Nirapekshata. So, in Lakshmi Tantra, the name of the guna is Nirapekshata, which means indifference, independence. Similar, it maps to Vairagya guna. The words are different. Now, here in this shloka from Rama Gita, it says Rama, after completion of his task of slaying Ravana, began to live a life as the Rajarshis have done before. So, what is a Rajarishi? A Raja is a Kshatriya who is protecting the people, and Rishi lives a life of penance and the pursuit of knowledge. So, Sri Rama was living the life of a Rishi, life of penance. And we know that Sita, after 2 years after his coronation, Sita went to Vanavas. They were living separately. So he was living a life of penance. Now, from Jyotish perspective, the way we can understand Vairagya is from Shani. Shani gives Vairagya only when it is very strong. Now we see here that his Adarsha Lagna Lord is Shani. So what is his Vairagya Guna? Is his Adarsha. And this Shani is exalted. Exalted means having the purest rays of the planet. So it is exalted and it is in the ninth house retrograde, showing the unflinching resolve for Dharma. And the exalted retro, now we should understand it clearly because we have talked about Vinaya, Vinaya, humility, right? We always say that when the planet is exalted retro, it can give humility in the positive sense. Now we know what this humility is. It is complete mastery of discipline, complete Indriya Jaya. So that is what is shown here from his Vairagya Guna. And this shloka from Ayodhya Kanda is the discussion between rishis on what is an ideal king. And it says Raja Satyam cha Dharmascha. So here we see that all the Sattva Grahas, Jupiter, Chandra, and Surya, are aspecting his Adarsha Lagna. And Shani is in the ninth house and also aspecting. And we can say that ninth lord of Dharma is also having Shubha Kartari, right? So we can see the Satyam cha Dharmascha from this. So let's try to understand the Jnana Guna. Now, as explained in the Pancharatra Agamas, Jnana Guna of Vishnu is the highest guna, and all the other gunas come from the Jnana Guna and they exist as the dharma of the Jnana Guna. So, we are going to try to understand it from the Adarsha third house. Because if we are to see third house from Lagna, it is the Upadesha that one receives from their Guru. But for Avatara Jataka, the third from Adarsha can be the Upadesha that the Jataka will bestow on the world when he is the king, when he is the ruler, when he is in reign. So let's try to understand that. The third house here we see is Mesha, which is the Kalapurusha Lagna. Now we know that Kalapurusha Lagna is the seat of Brahma Gayatri, the bija for which is Om. Now Bija for Gayatri is Rom, but Brahma Gayatri Bija is Om. And we know that Pranava Upadesha is given by Sri Rama. He has asked us to do Pranava before every mantra. So, this is also a remedy for the Surya Shani Yoga here. So, let's understand it that way. He has given the world a remedy for Surya Shani Yoga. So, now do we understand the Surya Shani Yoga in his chart better? In Bhushundi Ramayana, in the Jnana Guna chapter, the Savitur Gayatri is given, which is the Surya Gayatri. And we know that Gayatri mantra burns the karma of one's lineage. So it is a remedy to the Pitri dosha here. Now, um, Savitur Gayatri we know was seen by the Mangal Rishi Vishwamitra, and it is there in Rig Veda. But Savitur Gayatri can also be derived from the 24 shlokas of Gayatri Ramayana, which are part of the 24,000 shlokas of Valmiki Ramayana. And not to forget, Rameshwaram Jyotirlinga Setubandha is also in this house. So he has given us a Kshetra for emancipation. And this Jnana Guna is part of the infallible Parabrahma part of the Avatara. That's where all this Upadesha, all this, the path to moksha he has given us. Adarsha fourth house is extremely important because this is showing us the experience of the country because of the ideology of the king. So here we see that the lord of this Adarsha fourth house Vrisharashi is Chandra and Surya. Now both of them are in very high dignity, they are very pure. Now, if we have to look at the Shiva Purana Graha Ashtamuti slokas, Shukra is Sanjeevanam, life giving. Shukra is also Mrityunjaya. And Chandra is Amrita. So, and even Jaimini Maharshi teaches that Shukra gives ojas till the end of life. So, we know from Ramayana that Rama's subjects, the Praja, the people of Ayodhya, they lived for 1,000 years. There was no disease, no one became widow, there was no apamrityu. So how is that possible if the lord of the fourth from Adarsha was not Shukra and Chandra and they were not in such high dignity? Now to understand the Buddha in the fourth house. Now, one indication is that Buddha rules the northern Drik, and Ayodhya is in the north, Uttar Pradesh. But Ayodhya was not this tiny as today's Ayodhya. Ayodhya was huge, and also as I mentioned that Dasharatha was a Chakravarti Raja. So even their land, their territories extended beyond Ayodhya. Now, yeah, this is one indication that he ruled, the north. But the most important indication of having Buddha in the fourth is because Buddha is the Karaka of the 10th house of karma. And Rama was very, very focused on karma. He made sure that there was harmony in the society and people were following the duties of their Varna and their Varna ashrama. So this shloka from Rama Gita says, first you do the duties based on your Varna and ashrama. Thereby you attain the purity of mind. And then you can do other necessary sadhanas. And only, after that, once you have purified the mind, then you can go to the Guru for divine grace. But the first duty of every person is to do the duties of their Varna and Ashrama. And Rama was very focused on it. And that is the meaning of this Buddha in the fourth house. Now, Buddha is MKS, and we'll come to that. So, Shri Guna is the next Guna, the fifth Guna. Now, Shri Guna doesn't exist. It's not there in the Pancharatra Agamas. So this is very particular to Sri Rama. And in Bhushundi Ramayana, one of the shlokas in this Shri Guna chapter, which I think sums it up pretty well, Koti Surya Pratikasham, Koti Chandra Sushitalam. Sri Rama had the radiance of 10 million suns and also the soothing lustre of 10 million moons. Now, in this shloka that we have studied before, where the rishis are discussing the qualities of a very good Raja, very good king, They say Raja Mata Pita. Raja is like the father who is a protector, and Mata who is the nurturer, the nourisher. So Mata and Pita is sun and moon. And if we are to look at Shri Guna from the Jyotish perspective, we can consider Srimanta Yoga. Srimanta Yoga happens in the second house and the seventh house. And here, from his Adarsha, the second house is lorded by Jupiter, who is with Chandra, Mata. And uh, the seventh lord is Surya, who is also exalted, and both the Chandra and the Surya are aspecting his Adarsha. So he is ruling, his ideology is being a mother and father to his kingdom. Now let's understand the Graha Malika, which is ending in the Adarsha sixth house. Now, Graha Malika meaning, all these planets are ultimately the result of them is in this Shiva Lagna. So, what happens when there are two extremely powerful benefics in the sixth house? What is the ideology? No enemies and no Shadripu. Now, this is very important because we know that the essence of the spiritual Ramayana is the journey of the sadhaka through the chakras, guided by the rishis, and to kill the Papa Purusha. Papa Purusha is in the sixth house. So that is the meaning, and it is so clearly visible when we study the chart from the Adarsha Lagna. Now, these shlokas of Parashara are saying that Sri Rama and Kunti Putra Yudhishthira have their ninth lord in Airavat Amsha. Now, what is Airavat Amsha is when 9 out of 10 in the Dashavarga is very high dignity. So, ninth lord for Sri Rama is Jupiter, right? If we see from Lagna, ninth lord is Jupiter. So, this means that Jupiter is in Airavat Amsha. Not only it is exalted in the Rashi chart, it is exalted in 9 or exalted a very high dignity in 9 out of 10 in the Dashavarga. So now we can imagine how powerful this Jupiter is. And this shloka says all avatars of Vishnu will have planets which are involved in Kendra Kona Yoga and Devaloka Amsha. So Devaloka Amsha means 7 out of 10 in Dashavarga, very high dignity. And we know that Kendra Kona Yoga in the chart of Sri Rama is Chandra Brihaspati because Chandra is the Lagna Lord Kendra and Jupiter is the ninth Lord Kona. So now we know that Chandra is also very, very powerful, not just an own sign in the first in Rashi chart, but it is in Devaloka Amsha. Now we don't know how these Amsha rules work for normal people, but these shlokas are targeted definitely to the Avatara Jataka. So now we know that these two benefits that we were talking about are killing the Shadripu. It is no ordinary benefit. They are actually really very, very pure. So I want to bring your attention to the Mangal because this Chandra and Brihaspati is also in yoga with Mangal. This is a Paraspara Drishti yoga, which is also a very powerful yoga. Now, I want to make sure that everyone understands that, everything was Sri Rama's, we know that his subjects, it was Ram Rajya was everyone was happy. But it was not happening automatically just because Ram is Bhagwan. He was actually putting it in a lot of effort. And that we can see from this yoga of Mangal. The killing of the Papa Purusha is not happening automatically. There is his Virya Guna completely working for it. So he was very ruthless in punishing. And he had charas, the spies, the informers everywhere. Like a Raja should have. In Artha Shastra, it says that Raja should have spies. So he was making sure he always knew what was happening in his kingdom. And if someone was not following the Varna Ashrama Dharma, they were not doing the duties of their Varna Ashrama, they would be punished. And he was also these doing these yagyas to purify his prajas. Like Ashwamedha Yagya has the power to destroy grave sins like Brahmatya. So these yagyas are not easy. They are huge undertakings even for a Raja of his stature. So He was doing all that work. He was taking up all those things in order to purify his praja and making sure dharma is very strong in his country. Sukhasya moolam is dharma. Now, another aspect of this Jupiter Chandra Yoga in the sixth house from Adarsha. Now, this is forming a Parijata Yoga because Chandra is the fourth lord and Jupiter is the second and 11th lord. And Chandra is the Anitya Karaka and Chandra is also in this yoga. So, this is a very strong Parijata Yoga. Now, Sri Rama does have other, wish fulfilling tree yogas in his chart, and because of that, it is said that during Ramarajya, all the trees would bear fruits, all because of all these, Parijat yoga and Kalpadruma yoga, etc., that he had in his chart. But let's think about this Parijat yoga in the sixth house, and for that, we will understand Yashoguna. This is the last guna. Now, yash means success and achievement. Yash means fame, but most importantly, it means success and achievement. And the guna doesn't exist in Pancharatra Agama in this exact word, but it can be related to Teja Guna. Because as it is explained in the Pancharatra Agamas, Teja Guna is the guna that can defeat a very strong enemy, a very educated and strong enemy. So who can that enemy be? Shadripu, right? Shadripu is the enemy. Ravana is the enemy. So to understand Yashoguna, I'm going to go to the Yashoguna chapter in Bhushundi Ramayana. Now, just for context, Bhushundi Ramayana Purva Khanda is written similar to like Bhagavatam. And the important context for us is that because we are talking about Sri Jagannath Vesha, which really means Sri Krishna dressed up as Sri Rama. So it's not the avatar Sri Rama, it's actually Sri Krishna who is wearing the attire of Sri Rama. So Bhushundi Ramayan has many parallels. I mean, there are many parallels between Rama and Krishna, we know, right? So in Bhushundi Ramayan, Krishna's Vraja is like Rama's Pramodhavana on the coast of Sarayu River, where Rama is in constant Leela with his Shahja Shakti, twin Shakti Sita, and the Gopas and the Gopis, and they are in constant bliss. Now Rama has to sometimes, go away and do his work as the avatara and, kill the Papa Purusha, but then he is back here in Pramodavana and he is constantly there. Now, in this chapter, it says that Yatra Dwadasha Divyani Vanani. There are 12 divine forests in the Pramodavana. And the sixth one is called Parijatavana. So now do we understand the Parijata Yoga in the sixth house? Isn't it a beautiful connection? Now, this shloka, Ramo Ramo Rama iti praja nama bhavan katha. It means that Rama's subjects, the people of Ayodhya, they were immersed in the name of Rama and the thoughts of Rama. All the time, they only talked about Rama. Now, what happens when you take the name of Rama continuously? For that, we go to the shloka in Ramarahasya Upanishad. And we have mentioned about Rakara, the Ra Akshara being Vahni Vachan. But here it is saying that that is only the Prakasha Artha, the outward meaning. The Paramatma Artha, the divine, the soul meaning is Satchidananda Rupa, is this constant bliss state. Adarsha 8th house is very important for a Yuga Avatara because Yuga Avataras come at the end of the Yuga and they are the precursors of Mahapralaya. So we have to see this from the 8th house from Adarsha. 8th Lord from Adarsha is Buddha, who is MKS in the 4th house. MKS means Marana Karaka, it shows a lot of destruction and death. The other lord is Rahu, who is debilitated in the house of Jupiter. Again, Jupiter is Jiva. This shows a lot of death. So this indication of Mahapralaya has to show from the Jataka of the Yuga Avatara from their Adarsha Lagna. It has to show. And Rahu is also one of the Lagna lords. So one of his Lagna lord, Shani, is, you know, constantly setting up dharma. He is focused on the establishment of dharma. The other one is preparing for the end of the yuga. Now the 22 Akshara mantra of Sri Ramachandra. Now we know that 22 Akshara is very important here in this context because of the 22 steps of Sri Jagannath. Now that will be covered in another presentation later on by Vivekji. So I will just mention that this mantra is Udaya Hrida, meaning it blossoms the heart. Hrida means heart, but from Jyotish we know that the Rid chakra is where the Ashtakarakas are. So it can also mean the blooming of the soul. And Hridaya also means Veda, so it can also mean the blooming of the knowledge. So that is what happens when you do this 22 Akshara mantra of Sri Rama. And it is Sarva Abhishta Pradaya, fulfills all wishes. Now, in this mantra, we are calling on Sri Rama as the son of Dasharatha and the husband of Sita, Sita Vallabhaya and Dasharathaya. I won't read the mantra, but you can read it here. Now, the main thing that I want to mention here, that this environment, when all these mantra upadesha were given by Hanuman and Sri Ram, was very much like the coronation ceremony of Sri Rama. Because, it was a huge gathering, all the rishis were there, and bhaktas like Prahlad were there. Sugriva was there, like Vanara chiefs were there, Bibhishan was also there. So it was very much like the gathering, of the coronation. And in this Dhyana Shloka, this is the scene of the coronation ceremony where Sri Rama is seated in Virasana posture on a gem studded throne, and Sita on his side in a big mandapa, big pavilion under a Suradruma, like a Parijata tree or a Kalpadruma tree. And he's surrounded by his brothers. His brothers are fanning him and, holding the umbrella. And the rishis, all the rishis are there. Hanuman is in front, sitting in front. And the rishis and Hanuman and everyone, they are having a discourse on philosophy, Tattva Jnanam. So this is very interesting because this is what happened in his coronation. Because in Skanda Purana, Padma Purana, it says that Sri Rama assumed the Vishwarupa form on the day of his coronation. So how beautifully it links. Now, what is the meaning of Nilachala, Niladri? We know that Purushottama Kshetra is called Niladri, and there are many meanings, but I will talk about one. So it is said that Bhushundi, Kag Bhushundi, he lives in the far north beyond Mount Sumeru, where there is a lovely mountain known by the name of Nilgiri. It is mentioned in Ramcharitmanas. And in Yoga Vashishta, it mentions that when Vashishta came to meet Kagbhushundi, he went to the corner of Mount Sumeru, who speak to a mountain, whose peak shines with the luster of the blue sapphire, Indra Nilashikha. So we know that Kagbhushundi lives in a mountain called Nilachala, Nilgiri. So when Shiva lost Sati and he was distraught, he was wandering around like a madman. Even, wandering around the beautiful forests, the mountains, the rivers and lakes, nothing gave him any peace. But wandering, he landed up in Bhushundi's ashram in Nilachala. And Bhushundi is always immersed in the name of Rama. He is immune from all the Mahapralayas because he is in that bliss state. This Nilachala is like it's a state of mind. It is where you are immersed in Rama and you are in bliss. No Mahapralaya can hit you, no yoga cycle can hit you. It is said that Bhushundi, flies down to Ayodhya every Yuga cycle when Sri Rama is born. And he stays in Ayodhya for 12 years and he rejoices in the child Rama, the Leela of the child Rama. And then he goes back to Nilgiri again. So the Upadesha from Bhushundi for the path of devotion is to meditate on Sri Rama's child image in the heart. And that's why we see in the Ayodhya temple these days, the new Ayodhya temple, it has a idol of child Rama. Because Ramcharitmanas is very much influenced by Bhushundi Ramayana. And Ramcharitmanas is very popular in a lot of places in India. So now, this shloka from Bhushundi Ramayana is very beautiful. It says that when Sri Rama is pleased with one, Paritushto, after they have lived many lives perfecting their karma and jnana, aneka janma samsiddha karma jnana adi bhagine, then he gives paramam prema, dadami paramam prema. So, prema is the path that you can reach once you have completed all your karma yoga and jnana yoga. Now we come to the second part of this session where we are going to discuss some aspects of some of these muhurtas when this Vesha was held. Now here we are going to use a dasha called Saptarishi Dasha. And this is how the Saptarishi constellation looks like. It's part of a constellation called Ursa Major, which is only visible from the northern hemisphere. Now this dasha is tracking the actual physical movement of the Saptarishi in the nakshatra mandala centered around Dhruva, the pole star. You can see the constellation is moving like this through the seasons. And because Shri Matsya is pulling the boat, which has the Saptarishis, and Shri Matsya is represented by Ketu. Ketu moves Viparitam. Therefore, this dasha will move Viparitam. If we have time in the end, we can come back to all these shlokas and everything. But mainly, to understand that all the rishis are not in the same nakshatra at any given time in the dasha. They are one after another. And the thing to focus for us is the Sukshma Antara Dasha, which is 1 year period. Because we are talking about a Vesha that has a probability of happening every year. And the Sukshmantara Dasha starts on the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad of that year. Now, the first Raghunath Vesha was held in 1577. So, what was the Vesha Kalapatra like? So, the age of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Panchasakha was the first half of the 16th century. The later half, there was an Afghan mercenary by the legendary name of Kalapahar, who had attacked Utkala Desha repeatedly, and his worst attack was in 1568. So this year marked the end of the last native king ruling Orissa, Mukundadeva, and it started the Muslim Karani dynasty, the control of the Muslim Karani dynasty. Now, many times in history, the Daru Brahma, the wooden murtis of the deities, had to be hidden from various invaders. So, it happened so in this year that the half destroyed Daru Brahma was hidden in a place called Kujanga. It was hidden in somebody's Mridanga. Now, Akbar was Shahinshah Hind at this time, and he had already turned favorable to religion. So, somehow, Ramachandra Deva, he made an alliance with Akbar and he recognized himself as the Gajapati king, and he founded the Bhoi dynasty of Khurda, which is the second reign of the Bhoi dynasty. And then in 1575, he took Daru Brahma out of the place of hiding and installed it in the Jagannath temple. And so he was called Abhinava Indradyumna. Indradyumna, we know, is the originator of the Jagannath temple from the Satya Yuga. And Abhinava means the new Indradyumna. So there are some controversies with these dates and everything, which we can't go into, but So anyhow, and after that, 1577, he held the Raghunath Vesha. Now the Vesha gets its name from Jayadeva Goswami's Geeta Govinda, which has the Dasha Avatara Stotra. And in this, Sri Rama appears in the Dasha Avatara Stotra. In the seventh shloka, he talks about the Rama Avatara. And the word he uses is Raghupati Vesha. So we see that the Vesha gets its name from that because Dashavatara Stotra was offered to Sri Jagannath every day at the Jagannath temple from the time of the Ganga dynasty. And the important thing to note is that he is uh, he is saying Vesha. He's using the word Vesha, which means an attire, a garment, some kind of a cloth, like some kind of clothes. So why is this important? Because for the other avatars, he uses the word Sharira, like Meena Sharira, the body, like Avatara came in the body of Meena. Or Kachapa Rupa, Avatara came in the form of Kachapa. But only for Sri Rama, he uses the word Vesha. Because Vesha has to do with the karma. Why? Because when we wear a armor to go to war, when we say put on wetsuits to go diving, so like that, Vesha has a link to the karma. And we know that Ramayana is about a karma. Sri Ram came to do a job of killing the Papa Purusha. Now, interestingly, between 1574-77 is also when the very early manuscripts of Ram, Santa Tulsidas was in Puri at the time. And he was a devotee of Sri Jagannatha and he worshipped Sri Jagannatha as Raghunath. And that could have also influenced the start of the Vesha. Now, this is the Muhurta of the Vesha. And the first thing we are going to look at the Sukshma Antara Saptarishi Dasha. This is Chitra. And Ketu is transiting through Chitra. So Ketu transit and it is transiting through the Gandanta of Chitra Nakshatra. Now, some of us may not know that the Bhu Gandanta that is in between Mesha and Meena extends right opposite to it, which is between Kanya and Tula. So the Bhu Gandanta, which marks the beginning of the zodiac, extends to here where Ketu is transiting. So this is definitely indicating the start of something. And our rishis have told us that Chitra Nakshatra is the anchor of the zodiac. That's how we get the Chitra Paksha Ayanamsha. And also, Chitra Nakshatra is in the natural seventh house, which is the Adhana Lagna conception, conception Lagna. So from everywhere we look at, it definitely is indicating the start of something. And the Ramayana journey started from Chitrakuta. As Guruji has taught us, the spiritual journey starts from Chitrakuta, which is linked to the Chitra Nakshatra. This is the journey to kill the Papa Purusha. And another aspect of this dasha is we can take the Navamsha of the wherever in this dasha Marichi is. Marichi in this Manvantara is Kashyapa. Wherever Kashyapa is, the Ayanamsha point will be very close to that. And if we calculate the Navamsha of that point, that becomes a very important Rashi in this dasha. Okay. And then it becomes a deciding factor for the Muhurta. So in this case, we see that the Ayanamsha Navamsha is Tula. So again, this Ketu in Tula Vargotama is becoming very important. And it is marking the beginning of something. Now, important to note that Ramachandra Deva, who was called Abhinava Indradyumna, he established 12 Sashana villages as a gesture of we are talking about a Vesha of Jagannath, and which is Sri Rama, who is the Dharma Avatara. So these Sashana villages are places where Brahmins, can practice their, mantras and shastras and teaching. Brahmins can do their work. And it's not a new concept in Orissa. Sashana villages have existed from the time of the Ganga dynasty. And the best of the scholars from these Sashana villages, they form the committee, the Mukti Mandapa, which are in charge of the Jagannath temple. Now, this shloka says, Krite yuge dharmaranya tretaya satya mandiram. So, what is known as dharmaranya in Krita Yuga, Satya Yuga, is Satya Mandiram in Treta Yuga, Sri Rama's Yuga. So, in Satya Yuga, Yama Dharmaraja established 18,000 Brahmanas of 64 Gotras in a place called Dharmaranya, where they could practice being Brahmins. And because of various disturbances, these Brahmanas had fled Dharmaranya. So Sri Rama re-established Dharmaranya, and he re-established Sri Mata as the presiding Devi of Dharmaranya, and they called it Satya Mandiram. So on the day of his coronation, Sri Rama donated many gifts, 100,000 horses, cows, bulls, 30 crores of gold coins, many fine garments. And he has given Upadesha that whenever we employ a Brahmin, right, to do a pujas for any special occasions or something, we must donate to the Brahmins, but not only to the Brahmins, to the Shudras, to the poor, and the handicapped. So the reason I brought out Dharmaranya is it has a very beautiful link with the Muhurta. Now here we see there is a Matangi trine forming. So this is when Jupiter and Saturn are in trine to each other. We take the third trine, and whichever planet exalts there, in this case it's Surya, and Surya is also present there. So this is a complete Matangi trine. So now we know that Matangi Shakti brought about this Vesha. And that makes sense because the finest rays of Surya, brought Avatara Sri Rama. And Matangi is the Mahavidya of Surya. Now, the important link with Dharmaranya. In Dharmaranya, Matangi Shakti is worshipped every year because once there's an account of a wicked Daitya named Karnataka who was disrupting Dharmaranya. So, Shri Mata, the presiding Devi of Dharmaranya, took the form of Matangi, and she had a battle with Karnataka and defeated Karnataka. And this is very much that energy because see, Sun and Rahu are together here. It's kind of a battle energy. So it's a battle to set up Dharma. Now this shloka says Ravana sees Sita like the planet Mangal would obscure the constellation of Rohini. Now we know that Rohini is a beautiful planet, a beautiful nakshatra. It is a favorite of Shri Krishna. Now, when a malefic travels over Rohini and doing grahana to Rohini, it's supposed to be very bad for a muhurta. The Mahabharat war happened when Shani was traveling through Rohini. But in this case, we are talking about Ravana seizing Sita. So it has the energy of Mangal. And we see that Mangal is passing through Rohini in this muhurta. So it definitely has that energy, Graha ke Rohinim Iva. Now this is the direct translation from the Gita Press book of Ramayana. It doesn't say Mangal everywhere, but the energy of the shloka definitely points to Mangal. So, and Mangal is with Venus. Sita is represented by Venus, right? So it definitely has this energy of Sita being kidnapped. And if we look at the Saptarishi Dasha, this is the Mahadasha of Ardra. And in the Mahadasha of Ardra, Pulastya is in Rohini. And Pulastya is in the, Ravana is in the Vamsha of Pulastya. So very much has that energy of Sita being kidnapped. Now, Sarvatabhadra chakra is used to examine nakshatra drishtis, navataras, and mainly how the pancha angas of a muhurta are activating the pancha tattvas. Because the pancha tattvas together bring about an event. So we won't have time to look at Sarvatabhadra chakra for all the other muhurtas, but they are all very potent when we look at it from the Sarvatabhadra chakra. Now here, from in a Sarvatabhadra chakra, when we examine the muhurta with the help of Sarvatabhadra chakra, sun and moon are always important. And here we see that moon is sending a Veda to Abhisheka Nakshatra. Abhisheka Nakshatra is going to be extremely important for us, right? Because we're talking about a Muhurta Abhisheka coronation. And Sun and Jupiter. Now, maybe we didn't mention this, but Sun and Jupiter are the karakas. When we are talking about a muhurta of, something like something associated with the temple, especially a coronation event is always Jupiter. And Sun is, a temple. And karakas can make or break the muhurta. So it is very important to see the karaka in any muhurta. So here we see that Sun and Jupiter, they are sending Veda, Paraspara Veda. They are working together. But Jupiter is retrograde, and therefore its most predominant Veda will go backward to, and it is activating the Lagna, which is in Pusha Nakshatra. Again, we said that Pusha Nakshatra is very important for a coronation event. Now we mentioned Chitra, Ketu passing through Chitra, which is indicating the start of something, right? Start of an event. So looking at Ketu is also very important. Ketu we see is activating the Ra Akshara. Ra for Raghunatha. So a Vesha is coming into effect. The Ra Akshara is being activated by the planet that is transiting Chitra Nakshatra, which is the Sukshmanta Dasha. Very important. Also has Drishti on the Karma Nakshatra, because as we said, the Vesha is about karma. Now, the most important thing is the Panchanga. Now, we'll skip all the other, Panchanga and just focus on yoga, because here we are talking about, a Jagannath Vesha. And Jagannath is pure Akash. So, we are going to take yoga. This is the Nitya Yoga. The Nitya Yoga is Shukla. And there is a way to calculate. Yoga is formed by sun and moon, and then you add Pushya to it, and you get a cell. There is some calculation. You get a cell, and so after that we are getting Rohini. Rohini is the cell that will activate one of the vowels, which is the Akash Tattva activation. And here we see the A. The A akshara is the A vowel is getting activated. And A is what? Am is Vasudeva Bija, Shayana Vishnu. So obviously this is a very beautiful muhurta for Raghunath Vesha. Now there were 162 years between the first Raghunath Vesha and the second one, which happened in 1739, because it was a very dark period after the death of Akbar. I think during Shah Jahan it was a little better, but Jahangir, Aurangzeb were terrible. They were doing temple desecrations and all that everywhere. So 1739, finally, Veerakeshari Deva, he regained the throne of Khurda as Gajapati, and then he held this Vesha again. So this is the Shikhi Pratipad chart of 1739. Here I want to mention that this year, the Iranian leader Nadir Shah, he defeated the Mughals, and he walked into Delhi and he stole the peacock throne and the Kohinoor diamond of the Mughals, along with 24 crores of other jewels and wealth and everything, all that. So that to me is very, very ironic, because the same year that the Mughal got their throne stolen, Sri Rama's coronation happened. He was given the throne. And in on the day of Sri Rama's coronation, he was giving out these very expensive jewelry gifts to people. To the generals, generals that he thought were very capable and trustworthy, who were worth it. Like to Sugriva, he gave a gold garland studded with a glowing sunbeam like Vigraha. To Angada, he gave armlet of gold and Vaidurya, cat's eye, and diamonds. And Sita, he gave the precious pearl necklace, which Sita in turn gave to Hanuman, because Sita thought Hanuman is the most capable. And here, all these things are going away from the Mughal kings. They're getting stolen. So obviously, they are not in the good books of Sri Rama. That much I can say. Now, to look at this Shikhi Pratipad chart, there is a Kala Sarpa Yoga, and it is in the second house. It is ending in the second house, which is the place of wealth. And it is also a house of moon. Moon rules the jewels. So obviously, this Kala Sarpa is not ending well. Now, this is the Muhurta of the Raghunath Vesha. Here, still there is the Kala Sarpa, but now it has become a Graha Malika. Now, Graha Malika is slightly better, because in a Malika, both the nodes, the Rahu and Ketu, they are working together. They are part of the same Malika. But if one of them is outside the Malika, then they will oppose the Malika. So this is at least showing that they are working together. Now, the important thing to look to notice about this muhurta is that it is in a cusp of a dasha change, of a pratyantara dasha change. 1739, the 10-year dasha, Ashwini started. And here the Rajatara is Pushya. If I didn't mention about the Rajatara, whatever is the dasha, if you count 8 in the direct reckoning from the dasha, it comes to the Rajatara. And the Rajatara will have a very big say in the dasha. In this case, it will have a very big say in the muhurta. So, Pushya, we said, is a very important nakshatra for coronation event. So obviously it's happening after 164 years or something. So the time has to be very favorable in all respects. So this Pushya being the Rajatara is definitely helping that. And let's talk about a phenomenon which is Sun Jupiter conjunction. Now here we are going to go to Shiva Purana. This shloka in Shiva Purana says, Meshage cha Gurau Ragau. When Jupiter and Sun is in Mesha, Naimishe Badare Snayan, meaning one should take bath in Naimisharanya and Badrinath. Naimisharanya is where Gomati river is, and Badrinath is where Alakananda river is. So then you can get Shivaloka, Shivaloka Prada, which means the doorway to Shivaloka is opening when you do this. So from Jyotisha, we can apply this like Guruji has taught us that the fourth from wherever Jupiter is placed is the place where rivers are flowing, the blessings are flowing. And this is because Jupiter exalts in the natural fourth house of Karka, which is a sign of rivers. So this is where the rivers will flow. So in this case, now we are seeing that this Kala Sarpa, which is now become a Graha Malika, is ending in this Treta Yuga Rashi. Very important for Sri Rama because his Lagna was also Karka, Treta Yuga Rashi. This is now becoming a Kshetra. It is a Kshetra that Shiva has created for the purpose of emancipation, Mokshartha Kripaya. Now, rivers are also very important to the coronation event because it is said that on the day of Sri Rama's coronation, the Vanara chiefs went in 4 directions and got water from the 4 oceans in the 4 directions and also from 500 rivers. And with this clear, fragrant water, the 8 rishis consecrated Sri Rama. Now, there were 70 years between 1739 and 1809 Raghunath Vesha. Now, Mughals had already, fallen by that time, and now it was the time of the Marathas. Now, the Marathas had reduced the Gajapati kings to mere zamindar status, and they were the temple superintendents. So that's why the Vesha was not held, because as I was saying, the Gajapati Rajas, they are the sponsors of the Vesha. Marathas collected pilgrim tax, but they also donated Satesh Hazari Mahal, which is, a vast landed property that generates a lot of revenue for the Jagannath temple. In 1803, the British East India Company took over the administration of Orissa. And the Raja of Khurda, he tried, there were some futile rebellions he tried, but Khurda was annexed and the Raja was exiled. Now, the British took charge of the temple and they had a very hard time for many years. Because they were not allowed to enter the temple and they also didn't understand any of the rituals. So, and they were controlling the money, so they didn't understand why any of these expenses, would occur. So they kept appointing officials after officials to do these audits and reports. And they were then studying these reports to understand, try to understand what is going on in this temple, but they never did. And then finally they gave up. They even, reintroduced the pilgrim tax. They still couldn't make the ends meet. So they gave up in 1809 and they reinstated the Raja of Puri as Gajapati and the superintendent of the temple. And that's when the next Raghunath Vesha happened. This Vesha also has Sun Jupiter in Meena. So the shloka Meenage cha Gurau Raghu is Vishnu Loka Pradayini. So this is opening up the doors to Vishnu Loka. Now, the important, we are just looking at some important aspects at this point. So here, there is a Tara Kavach, Ugra Tara Kavach formed in the sky. When Shani is in Vrishchika and Jupiter is in Meena, there is a Ugratara Kavach. Now it is said that Shri is protected by 8 powerful goddesses, and one of them is Tarini. Mangala is the foremost, but Tarini is also there. Now, this shloka we will read because we want to understand why would Tarini Shakti bring about or help, in bringing about a Raghunath Vesha. What is the link? So this shloka in Tara Rahasya, it's a samvada between Sadashiva and Kali. So Sadashiva repeatedly asks Kali, Punah, Punah, hey Devi, in the very ancient past, when you slayed the dreadful faced Ravana because he had 10 heads, Karalasya, Karalasya Ravana Nashita Pura. When you slayed the dreadful faced Ravana, then your marvelous form was famous by the name of Ugratara. Now, did Rama kill Ravana or did Ugratara kill Ravana? For that, this shloka from other Shakta Tantra we can find that says Krishnastu Kalika Sakshat Rama Murtischa Tarini. So, like Krishna is connected to Kalika, Rama is connected to Tarini. And this is a very Shakta thing. Okay. So that's how we know that Rama, Tarini Shakti will help bring about the Rama Raghunath Vesha. Now, one of the historical events of this year is the Treaty of Amritsar between Ranjit Singh and the British. Now, Ranjit Singh is, the founder of the Sikh Empire and British East India Company, and this treaty gave immunity to the region of Punjab from British for an entire generation. As long as Ranjit Singh was alive, the British couldn't do anything to the land of Punjab. Now, why would Raghunath Vesha or Tarini Shakti have anything to do with Punjab? It is because Tarini Shakti is a Mahavidya of Jupiter, right? And this whole region of Punjab is very Jupiterian because it was established. This is the ancient city of Takshashila on the bank of river Sindhu that was established by the brother of Sri Ram Bharat for his son Taksha. And Jupiter, represents Bharat, the Sankhya avatara of Sri Vishnu. And this place has a very beautiful Jupiterian energy because the Takshila University, which is the first university, was here. And scholars like Panini and Chanakya taught here. So now we know the connection between all of this. So we have to skip all the other Veshas and we'll just go straight to the last one, 1905. But I do want to mention that the 1893 was a very the 1893 Vesha. This was a very important year, historical moment in the establishment of Dharma because this year Swamiji gave his speech at the Parliament of World Religion. Now, how is Raghunath Vesha helping Swamiji? We have to understand the link. Swamiji is the avatara of Kashyapa Rishi. And Kashyapa Rishi's son is Vivaswan. Vivaswan's son is Vaivaswat Manu, who is the originator of the Surya Vamshis. So that's the connection. And also Swamiji got his enlightenment in Setubandha. Setubandha is a kshetra that comes from Sri Rama. So there is a beautiful connection. Now, one important thing that we will notice about this 1905 Raghunath Vesha is the Nabhasa Ashraya Yoga called Rajju. In this Ashraya Yoga, this means that there are 6 planets in the Chararashis forming this Ashraya Yoga. And whenever there is an Ashraya Yoga, the course of history will change. And Ashraya Yogas are always associated with a Devata. And we can know the Devata if we look at the Chararashi here, which has the most planets. In this case, this is Mesha, and the lord of Mesha is Mangal, which would mean that the Devata would be like a war god. But Mangal is in exchange with Venus, so the Devata is a war goddess. So the world is coming under the ashraya of a world goddess, of a war goddess, the shelter. The world is coming under the shelter of a war goddess. So what happened this year? The Bengal partition, 1905 partition of Bengal. It was a very devastating year for the people of Bengal. Now, here we have to understand that this course of history changing is like a massive river changing its course. This is Ashra Yogas are very jala in nature. Now, Swadeshi movement, which was very crucial for the freedom struggle of Bharat, right? Which was popularized by Gandhi. This Swadeshi movement started in this year. And I'm bringing up the song Vande Mataram because we are talking about Ashraya Yoga. Ashraya Yoga is a very jala in nature, has to do with the emotions of people. This Vande Mataram song, which is a very moving song, patriotic song, it became the song of the freedom fighters on this year. And it was so powerful. This song is so powerful that it was banned by the British. Now, interestingly, this song first gained political significance when Rabindranath Tagore sang it at the Congress session in 1896, which was the previous Raghunath Vesha. And because we talked about Swadeshi movement, which was popularized by Gandhi and played a crucial role in Bharat's freedom struggle, I want to mention that Gandhi's activism years spanned from 1893 to 1948. 1947, Bharat got freedom. 1948, Gandhi died. 1893, when he was in South Africa, he started his activism. 1893 is also a year of Raghunath Vesha, and Gandhi always took the name of Sri Rama. So I hope I was able to, drive home that these Veshas of Jagannath are very powerful and they have an impact on history. Now I can either end my presentation here, go to the next slide, but if we have more time that I can utilize, then I will look at another muhurta. So please let me know.
Okay, Shashwati we have 9 more minutes and one question waiting. So, yeah,
Okay.
you may decide
We can
to
take the
add.
question, or I can finish and we can take the question.
Yeah, a couple of more minutes and one question. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to end on a note that, of course, we are not talking about Rama Avatara here, but Krishna dressed up as Rama Avatara. So I want to end with the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shashwat. It was very extensive, very beautiful, and very interesting presentation. And we have one question from Dana Minjulina. Hare Krishna Rama. Out of curiosity, may I ask the source for the first Raghunath Vesha Muhurta?
So all the muhurtas, as I said, I explained in the beginning that we only know the date of the last Raghunath Vesha Muhurta, which is 1905, because it was published in the paper. But the the last day of the Sahi Yatra is always on Chaitra Krishna Navami. And that is when Sri Jagannath's Raghunath Vesha is held in the Jagannath temple. So that is where the Muhurta is coming from, for all the other, the eight Raghunath Veshas for which we only have the year. Based on the 1905 Muhurta, for which we have a date. Yeah, so that's what.
Thank you so much. Thanks again,
Thank
and
you,
thanks for
everyone.
that.